Hello, well, welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for following me as I explore the wide world of pens, inks, sometimes paper. This video is about inks. In particular, these 4 inks you see in front of you. Pretty nice looking bottles. These came in clear plastic boxes. These are cardboard boxes. Why do I have these inks? Well, I explore AliExpress. AliExpress makes recommendations to me. I saw these inks. The price was excellent. And yes, shipping was expensive. That's why I bought 4. So the shipping was spread out over the 4. So these 4 inks delivered price was around $20. So it's about $5 a bottle, which I think is a good price for these inks. These 2 are sheening inks. These 2 are glitter inks. And as we look at them, we can see the glitter. The glitter goes into suspension fairly easily. You saw this ink in a Keras Vertex. Here's another one. You can see it's like a green glitter. So these boxes identified as Tramol Ink. I have a pen from them, which we'll look at in the course of this video. There's the back. It's 18 milliliters. You open these up, you'll see the same type of bottle with an interesting label. Then again, the same type of information that was on the cardboard sleeve. And I've also used this ink. We'll see if there's any interesting information in that Chinese label. So those are the 4 inks. And I'm happy with all 4. We're going to explore them in a little bit more detail and see why I like them. Here's my writing samples of the 4 inks. They also carry a number identification if you do go on AliExpress to look for them, and you can find the names. But I think all of these look good. Maybe you can see some of that shimmer, especially Volga River, and maybe a little bit in Pine Forest. And maybe some of the glitter in the 8 and 9. They all look good on paper. The smear also looks good, nice saturation. I think you might see a little bit of green in that jadeite. I don't know. Your eyes might be better than mine. So we're going to look at color cards. In Volga River, number 1, we'll do that first. Really interesting dark pink, almost verging on red. Probably another word I could use for that. The chromatography shows a very consistent blue. And as we expect, no water resistance. We'll look at the other shimmering ink. Pine Forest, and yeah, I dropped something there. Again, we can see the sheen, not quite as intense as Volga River, but it's still there. And in the same kind of like red ruby family. But the chromatography is much different. We see a lot of green, Pine Forest, and then you get the blues and the very intense blues. So 2 inks that are interesting. From the chromatography, even more interesting than one would think. As we go to the glitter inks, this is number 8. You can catch a little bit of glitter there. It's not a whole lot. So for those that kind of like just a subtle amount of glitter, this might be the ink for them. And no water resistance, which is what we expected. And here we have kind of like a brown going into a blue. Again, very interesting, the dyes that they use. And here I think is the more unique of all the 4 inks, at least from a color viewpoint. And JDD Peacock, I'm certain I'm not pronouncing that right, is definitely an interesting color. Again, you got your browns to your blues, but here the blues are very, very light. So there's less blue dye affecting the overall color of the ink when you put it down on a card. Yes, two very different chromatographies comparing these inks. So we're now going to look at water resistance of the 4 inks together. They've been on this sheet of paper for well over a week, so sufficiently dried. And this is just standard copy paper. We'll flip it over and we'll see definitely show through and definitely some bleed through where I put down some heavier concentrations of ink, but considering this is copy paper, not bad. So we're going to dip this in water, maybe do a little bit of speed up and see how it responds to water and what type of water resistance they have. So immediately you see that the shimmer ink seemed to start flowing away right away. And in similar types of color, kind of in the turquoise family. Zoom in a little bit so you can watch it. I'm going to leave it set here for a couple minutes and then come back and visit it. It's been over 5 minutes, so let's see what it looks like when we remove the paper from the water. I'd say keep this ink away from water. That's my impression. We'll do a little paper towel dabbing. And we'll see the more saturated shimmering inks still have a little bit remaining. The glitter inks, very little remains, even though it looked a little bit like they weren't spreading as much. But I think they're less saturated than the sheening ink, so therefore it doesn't take much to move them so they become unreadable. So much for water resistance, is reflected also in some of the chromatography. Here's the Tramol pen I talked about. And I give you a link to the review I did on this pen years ago in the video description. So is this a good pen? I say yes, it is. Never made my everyday carry, and for no particular reason. But I enjoyed the matte finish. It also comes in clear, but I had a lot of clear eyedropper pens, so I wanted a matte one, and I love the black clip. So the pen came to be into my collection. It's still available on eBay. Here's some of those listings in case you're interested. And Mr. Crab hasn't been doing any work for a while, so we'll let him hold up the pen and give you a wink, and we'll continue on. So I promised some live writing. So this Kaigaloo 316 has the Volga River ink in it. Let's see how that extra fine nib handles that ink. So this is not really an exploration of the nib, but for an extra fine nib, I love the line that this ink puts down. It's a nice saturated line. The ink flow is good in this pen. It's not exceptional, but it's good. But this pen has been refilled a couple times with this ink. It's made its debut with a few pen friends, and they've loved it when the nib touches the paper. And I think it looks great in letters. So for an ink that cost around $2 for an 18 milliliter bottle, the flow is great. It makes every nib feel good. It really reminds me of the Birmingham Pens inks that I love. And it's made in China. So I'm impressed. It may not be an ink for everybody. It may not be an ink everybody can find or feel comfortable buying, but as I explore the wide world of pens, this is one of those surprises. As my handwriting and spelling degrade. So let's look at Jadeite Peacock. Considering this is one of the glitter inks, and I apologize if I used sheen and shimmer interchangeably in the video, but I've always clear glitter is glitter. I've written with this Vertex pen with this extra fine titanium Bach nib, and I just love it. I just find this to be a color that I have no other ink that this color. The glitter is fairly subtle. It just adds a little bit of nuance to your writing, which I love. I mean, I'm sorry to be, well, I'm not really sorry, but I really love this ink. So to me, the $20 I invested to get 4 inks, all of the 4 inks I really enjoy on every level, this ink hits the ball out of the park. This ink makes it all worthwhile. So we've reached the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. And I'll try to have good penmanship. Hopefully you can find an incredible ink that blows your mind, that makes you love your pens even more, that makes your letters pop when the receiver opens them up and looks at them and goes, wow. I love that ink. So this is the end of this video. I hope it finds you safe, healthy, and most importantly, happy. We're going to say bye. And I have a lot in the pipeline. So stay tuned. And yes, it'll railroad, but that's just me. If you write properly, this nib and ink work well together.